Hi outdoorsy friends, I'm Tricia Morris at Club Scrap with the National Parks remix. Actually, this is the second remix we've done of this stunning collection, and it's just backed by popular demand, especially now with us experiencing some travel restrictions. I know for a fact many of you have been exploring our beautiful national parks. So here is the collection, and we are going to spend the next 30 to 40 minutes or so preparing these pages as you will see them in the instructions. So if you got this kit, you were emailed a copy of the instructions to download and print, and hopefully also a link to this video. So without further ado, let's get started making these 8 gorgeous pages. We have some sorting to start with, as I usually do every time we start a kit together. And if you have been around Club Scrap for a long time, you'll just see a little difference in that we're going to start right away with trimming the papers, and I've saved the cut-aparts to the end, and I'm going to provide some trimming measurements for you on those as well. So to start, let's grab all of our paper, and yours probably is in a different order than mine is. That's okay. And we're going to, I'll just call out what we're looking for, and we'll sort that onto our trimmer base. So the first piece I want you to find is this beautiful postcard print. Just go ahead and take that out of the stack, only one copy of that, and then put it face down so the ivory side is facing up. And then I want you to find this map print as well. Just flip that over. Make sure you only have one of them. Next, we'll find 2 of the brown planes. I believe you were provided with 3, but just make sure you only take 2 brown planes. This is a really sturdy, heavyweight stock, so just kind of be aware of that. And then find 1 of the blue planes, followed by a green plane. All of these papers will be trimmed. Then a brick plane. Oh, and then a second brick, my apologies. So go ahead and grab both of those. There should just be 2. And then we're going to locate our cut-aparts. We'll begin by finding the cut-apart that has this longer strip on the left here, a little step, maybe the beginning of a great journey. I'll put that face down, and then another cut-apart with the 4 border strips here. We'll put that face down. And we'll continue to file what we've got left. We'll begin with the other map print. That'll be face down. And then find the third and final brown plane. Then look for a kraft plane. We're just going to take 1 of those and then add a green plane. Now it's getting easier to find the papers as the stack sort of dwindles. Now I need 2 more kraft planes. So there were a total of 3, so I'll take the last 2 of those. Postcard print and a blue plane. Okay, so flip over the whole entire stack, and that brings us back to the top where we have this beautiful postcard print. And I will turn back to page 1 of my instructions. If you have a printout of this, that's great. If not, you can always just look at your screen and just save the paper for your scrapbook. Okay, so we're going to make a couple of simple cuts here on this postcard print. And since all the artwork is heavily rotated, it doesn't really have a top or a bottom. You can add this to your trimmer any way you like. And the first cut is going to happen at 10.5 and then 7 inches. I'm using my Fiskars trimmer. If you don't have one of these, make sure you get your hands on one. I do carry these at Club Scrap, and I won't scrap without them. Then take the 2 largest strips that you just created. We're going to pocket those in 5 and 6. Now I'm referencing this accordion pocket file that I've made, and I can also provide you with the ability to make an accordion pocket file for yourself. If you don't happen to have one of these right now and you want to just keep going, of course, just make 4 piles. One for layouts 1 and 2, 3 and 4, 5 and 6, 7 and 8. But this pocket file just helps us stay really organized. So again, this goes in pocket 5 and 6, and I'll lay that at an angle so that I can still see the lettering on the left here. Then this next strip is going into pocket 7 and 8, and I'll grab the map print. Now this time I want you to take the print. So here now it's right side up, and I'm going to put it turn 1 turn so that let's see, the Utah border is down here at the bottom. Maybe that's a good way to remember how it goes in. We just want it sideways, and I'll cut at 10. Every time you trim, make sure the paper is flush at the top edge and you're stabilizing on the clear bar. and then 8 1/4. Then rotate this piece so it's horizontal and cut at 6 1/4. Now I've given you the option to tear it or cut it. I'm just going to cut it with the trim line this round. It's fine either way. And then I'm going to file these two non-equally sized pieces into pocket 3 and 4. This skinnier strip, it's 1 3/4 by 12, and the larger one, that's 2 inches, both get filed in pocket 1 and 2. And now we're already moving on to page 2 of our instructions. We'll take one of the brown planes, that is coming up here, and we'll trim at 11 1/4, 10 1/2, and 6 1/4. I'm going to rotate the 6 1/4 inch piece and we'll cut at 8 4. So that's 8, 4. Gather up 2 of the rectangles you made that are the same size, and those go in pocket 1 and 2. And then the last one goes in 7 and 8. And now we'll take this next strip. This is 4 1/4 by 12 right now. We'll cut at 11 3/4, 9 3/4, 6 1/2, 3 1/4. Gather up the 3 rectangles you just created that are the same size. Those go in pocket 1 and 2. And then this guy goes in 3 and 4. It's a little rectangle. Finally, there are 2 brown strips. They'll both go in pocket 1 and 2. And you did create a tiny little scrap. And scraps, you know, if something isn't used, it'll be indicated by just a little X on the diagram. There aren't very many scraps in this whole process, which I think you'll appreciate. Okay, next we'll take the second piece of brown. This time we'll cut at 11, 10, 8 1/2. Now, if I'm going too fast, always remember you can adjust the speed by clicking on the gear symbol in the lower right corner of your YouTube video, and then adjust the speed to like a 0.75 or a 0.5, just whatever pace works for you. And now I'm rotating this 8 1/2 by 12, and we'll cut at 11 3/4. So it's a big number, small piece, and then 6. Take this large 6-inch piece and put it in pocket 3 and 4. And then you have this larger rectangle, which will trim horizontally at 7 1/2 and 3 3/4. These 2 pieces that are equal will be filed in pocket 3 and 4. This skinny strip, also 3 and 4. This little guy is a scrap. And then you have a series of strips. Take the widest one, that goes in 7 and 8, and the 2 smaller ones, 3 and 4. Very good. Now we're moving on to a blue plane. We'll make a series of cuts at very large numbers to make some really tiny little strips. So we'll start at 11 3/4, then 11 1/2, 11 1/4, 11, and now a big move all the way down to 6 1/4. Rotate. We'll cut horizontally at 11 3/4, 8 1/2, 4 1/4. Okay, now you've got 2 mats that are the same size, and then you have another one that's kind of narrow. All of these go in pocket 1 and 2. And then you did create a small 1/4-inch scrap that we'll set aside. And now grab the next largest piece. This is a 4 3/4 by 12. We'll make 3 cuts. The first one's at 11 1/4, 7 1/2, 3 3/4. Gather these 3 pieces. They're going to go in pocket 5 and 6. And then what remains are these 4 really skinny guys. I call these paper ribbons. And I will put 2 of them in pocket 5 and 6 and 2 of them in 7 and 8. Now we're on to the green plane. Let's trim that. Oh, do I have a little scrap here? Yeah, this little piece is used in layout 7 and 8. So on the blue, that last little scrap. All right, now We're going to cut the green at 10.5, 7 3/4, and 4.5. Rotate, and we're going to repeat a series of cuts we just made recently. So that's 11 1/4, 7.5, 3 3/4, and that's going to give you 3 rectangles that go in pocket 5 and 6, and then there is a little scrap that we'll set aside. Now the next strip, same thing, we're going to do those same 3 cuts, 11 1/4, 7.5, 3 3/4. We just made 3 more rectangles that are the same size, and these also are placed in pocket 5 and 6. Now we're going to make some squares for a different page. Our first cut is at 11, 8 1/4, 5.5, 2 3/4. Now you've got 4 squares. They all go in pocket 5 and 6. I guess it is the same layout. All right, now we have, let's see, this skinny scrap, I think is the one used on 5 and 6. I'm not certain, but I'll put that in there and make sure this one stays handy. And then I've got this last strip going into pocket 7 and 8, and we're moving on to page 3. We're almost there. I've got 1 brick, so you have 2 set aside. Make sure you only take the 1. And our first cut, again, is at 11 3/4. We did quite a bit of that paper ribboning today. And then 10.5 and 6. Nice, easy number, finally. Rotate the 6 by 12, and we'll cut at 8 and 4. All right, now stack up these 3 4x6s, and those will go in pocket 7 and 8. And now we're going to cut this into equal-sized pieces by trimming it 9, 6, and 3. 9, 6, 3. All 4 of these rectangles land in 7 and 8. And then you've got these strips, the skinny and the wide, they both go in 3 and 4. Finally, brick plane will cut at 8 1/4 and 4. Now rotate the 4 by 12 and cut at 6. These 2 pieces are used in 3 and 4. Then the next strip we'll trim at 9 3/4, 6.5, 3 1/4. Gather up the 3 rectangles. It's getting to be a habit here. These go in pocket 3 and 4. And then there's this little rectangle. Let's trim this. It's like 4 1/4 by 2, I think. We'll trim horizontally at 4 and 2. So it actually, these are 2 by 2 1/4 now. They're sort of a rectangle. Those go in pocket 3 and 4. Now the next, let's see, there was a small scrap created. Let's set that aside. Now the final strip here, we're going to trim at 10 and 5. Stack up the rectangles 3 and 4. Finally, here we have a little guy. We're going to trim him horizontally at 3.5 and 1 3/4. Again, we're just dividing this exactly in half now. These little rectangles go in pocket 7 and 8. And then we have yet another pretty tiny scrap. Okay, next, let's pick up this cut apart. And we are now at the bottom of page 3. And here is the map, distribution of all the pieces. Normally what longstanding Club Scrap members have been looking for here are little tick marks that tell you where to trim. Instead of adding those marks to our print, we've left them off, and I'm giving you the detailed trimming instructions. Plus, I'll hold your hand as we walk through this. So let's place this into the trimmer so that the road trip is on the right, and we'll just trim here at 9, 6, and 3. That's 9, 6, and 3. this large piece will be filed in pocket 7 and 8, and then we'll pick up the next piece. And I always like to have the smallest portion of the remaining cut apart strip on the right so that we have the bulk of our paper on the base of our trimmer. Let's cut at 10 and a half, 8, and 4. Okay, so this piece, I let my mind wander, and the next piece with the map on it, they both go in 1 and 2. And then this, give me some more, 7 and 8, followed by May the Forest Be With You. That's 3 and 4. Okay, now the next strip too, and notice that I'm always letting the papers accumulate to the right of the blade so that I know you and I are on kind of always going to be on the same page here. All right, this next one will trim at 10 and a quarter, 8, and 4. So this piece goes in 1 and 2. This is, you don't take a photograph. That goes in 1 and 2. And then Vacation Next Exit, 3 and 4. We have a journaling prompt, 7 and 8. And then we just have this little frame. That goes in 1 and 2. Pick up the next piece. It doesn't really matter what order it goes in. I guess I'll go this way. It's going to be trimmed at 8 and 4. The car and camper, that's 3 and 4. Road trip, 1 and 2. And then Yellowstone, 3 and 4. Okay, one more sheet of border strips here. My apologies, it's a little bit, it's a map that's probably going to retire because it gets a little confusing over on this side, but just, I'll go along with you. It'll be fine. We're going to place this in the trimmer with these border strips on the right, as is our policy, and we'll cut at 10 and 3/4. We just have a lot of stripping to do here. And then 9 and a half, 8 and a half, 7 and a half, and a lot of 1-inch pieces here, 6 and 3/4, 6, 5 and a half, and 5. Okay, so now we need to rotate. Let's rotate so that of all the paths you take in life, that's going to be on your right. Let's cut at 10 and a quarter, 5, and 2 and a half. Now these two pieces get separated, so we're just going to cut them in half at 2 and a half, and we can file a little bit here. So this piece and the journaling prompt, Go Play, and this, both of them go in 5 and 6. Then pick up the next rectangle. This is 2.5 by 5 right now. We're going to cut it in half at 2.5. Once again, both of these pieces go in pocket 5 and 6. Okay, now next in my stack, and so if you've kept your stack piling up like I did, we're going to place this in the trimmer so the cars are on the right, and our cut will be at 4 inches. This piece we'll place in 5 and 6, and then the car piece goes in 5 and 6 also. Of all the paths you take, we also need to trim this horizontally at 4. The quote piece of all the paths you take, that's 3 and 4. And then you have the little national parks oval. That goes in 7 and 8. Then I'm going to carefully just pick up all the remaining border strips from the table and file them by dealing them out of my hand. So this is the order they landed in, I think. That's the order we'll file them in. So these circular strips will go in, both of them, 1 and 2. And then the next two pieces that include sometimes nature and then fresh air, they both go in 3 and 4. One of these green strips, also 3 and 4, and the other goes in 5 and 6. Finally, the last two strips with the little icons, they both go in 7 and 8. Okay, that really was the last cut. We have just some very, very tiny little pieces that remain as scraps that if you want to find a home for these, more power to you. There's only just a few. I mean, this is an impressive number of scraps considering that we started up with 16 sheets of paper, and this is the only thing that you don't need to that you won't be using. That's pretty awesome. I'll set aside my trimmer, and then when you move your trimmer, I just usually lock the blade, support my accordion pocket file, and then lay it on its back from now on. I'm going to turn to the last page of my instructions because during this dry fit process, we will be sliding and stacking our pages on top of each other, working from the back, so layout number 8 up to the front, layout number 1 in a nice little stack, so that when you come back with your adhesive and your tape and your pictures and everything else, everything will be starting from layout 1 and working right back, and every piece will have found a home, especially if we, forget about or misfile something. That takes care of it. So now I've got my entire pile of remaining paper on my left of the center of my work surface, and then I slid the top sheet to the right. So this is layouts 7 and 8, and if you look at the image for layout 7 and 8, this is at the bottom of page 5. You'll see these 2 papers are how we begin, and I always try to write the name of those papers as the first items in the list, in the ingredient list that I provide. So that requires that we go to our accordion pocket file to pockets 7 and 8. It's a little bit counterintuitive to start from the back and work our way front, but that's where we need to locate everything we need to complete this page. So I'll begin by adding an element of this postcard print to the right edge of the map, and then I'm going to line that with one of these blue paper ribbons. It just kind of is a nice way to subdivide the space. On the left, I'm going to do the same thing. I'll add this wider border, and then once again mirror that or reflect what happened over on the right by adding the blue strip here. Now to get our placement going, I'm going to add 2 vertical red mats into this spot. They fit really well there. And then how about a green strip with a nested border that has a quote on it. Wherever you go, go with all your heart. Then across the bottom here, I'll add a horizontal mat and then 2 red rectangles. Beneath that, I'm going to place this here for now. That's not the final size this will be, but I'm going to take that hello woodcut and just lay it on top. Later when you go back, you can just simply take scissors and add a point to the blue paper so that it matches the hello, and I'll show you what that looks like in a minute. Now on this side we've got this brown strip. So what this does is brings the brown paper here and it brings that color over to the other side, and I'll nest that with one of these border strips here. Above that I'll have or below that I'll add this brown photo mat and then 2 red ones underneath that as a pair. And this is just puzzles together really well. Now in your kit there were some goodies. These are these really cool vintagey envelopes. I think they're so attractive, and I'm going to take 2 of those and place them horizontally here. So what you can do is when you put this in a page protector, if you want to utilize these as extra things, you can staple some ribbon to this and slide it into the envelope and then make a slice in your page protector rather, so you can slide that out and read what's inside or see the picture or whatever. Or you could put like secret journaling about, maybe a travel mishap or something. Okay, I rounded the corners on this one. So if you have a corner chomper or corner punch, I use it on the 1/4 inch setting. And then below that, I'm adding a journaling prompt. And if you only just have a second, it doesn't take much time at all to remove the oval of this really cute little badge that says National Parks, better than the sofa. And I would have to agree, but I do like my sofa. Okay, so this goes on top of that. You can pop dot that if you wish. I add a little bit of this blue granulated ribbon to these inserts, and I'll show you that on the final layout. Let's take a look here. There we go. So here's the stapled blue granulated ribbon. So again, if you're cutting into your page protector to accommodate these, just have this sitting on top and have your slit kind of behind it. And I added some of the brick colored jute along with a paw charm, which I think is pretty adorable. I have rounded the corners also of my inserts, and then of this to kind of create a nice overall tied in effect. Now on this finished page, you can see now how I accommodated the space by trimming a V shape into each end of the blue scrap, the scrap that was rescued, right? here, I took some of our bookbinding glue and just generously put glue, especially along the spine and some of the veins in this really cool leaf. The leaf is somewhat flexible, even though it's made of metal, so I just pushed down firmly, and now, of course, it's there to stay forever. So that's a really nice thing about our bookbinding glue. It works so well. That's layouts 7 and 8. So now we do a slide and stack. We'll slide just this single page over to the right so it stacks on top of page 8, and then do another slide. Boom. So that should match what we have in store for us. A green plane on the left and a kraft plane on the right. This is layouts 5 and 6, so now you have to make sure that you go into pocket 5 and 6 to find all the pieces required to finish this layout. Okay, and let's distribute these. I kind of like to put everything in my hand, sort of like, I don't know, I just like, my hand is a little envelope and I can see everything quite easily. Along the left edge, I'm going to add this larger piece of that beautiful postcard print, and then I'm going to do the same, add it to the bottom here. You can adjust the orientation till you're happy. And then once again, we're going to do that little trick with the paper ribbon, and I like introducing that blue. It brightens it up a little bit and also helps define the space. Now along the left side here, I'm going to begin by adding this green strip, also ties in some nice green, and then I'll add the, let's see, where is this position here? Maybe just a little lower so that this is above it. It's kind of all about getting that positioning down, isn't it? And then we've got another blue here. So that's why I trim a lot at that 3 3/4 inch height. It just is such a nice fit when you distribute something across a page. Along the left here, I'm going to add this larger element, and right beneath it, I'll put the car right there. The camper and car, super cute. I'll add some of this ribbon, some jute, the binocular charm. I'll go over that in a minute, and then one of the leaf, the bronze leaf charms. I took the word this. Oh yeah, I got the right one filed in here. And it fits right onto the green, and you can shape that as well. I'll show you in the finished layout. Now, down in the bottom, I rounded the corners of 4 of these 2 3/4 inch squares. And if you're using a corner chomper, you can actually stack all 4 of them up and trim all 4 corners at the same time. And then I took these as well, and I rounded the corners of these. Again, that's always optional. I just think it added a nice effect to this lower portion. And then, like, a lot of times when I have a space like this, I try to get creative, and you know, I like to include as many pictures as possible. So this is a fun way. I've got a large in the middle, or at the top, then lower in the middle, and then top again on the right. I'm going to fill in these areas, those other 3 pieces. And I just kind of like how that pieces together. You don't need any fancy templates to make something like that work. It's just some creative trimming and a little bit of mathematical inspiration. So that right side, here's the rounded corners, and nothing else really exceptional about this as far as embellishing. It just is going to be a really beautiful page packed with gorgeous photos from your adventures. And then over here, we've got a leaf added. Okay, now this is fun. This, you can see the shape I made then with the green, and I used bookbinding glue to attach this. First, I tied the binocular charm onto the brick jute, and I made a loop out of it and tied a knot here, and then I just strung it onto this cut apart. Then when I had this placed how I really wanted it to look, I simply used bookbinding glue to secure the charm, keep it from moving around. And then here, all I did was tie a knot into that granulated blue ribbon and secured the ends on the back with tape. And there you have it. That's page, let's see, this is 5. So that was layout 6 and 5, and now we're ready for another stack and slide. So we'll take this page here, which has the green base, slide that over, and stack the next sheet on top of it, which gives me 2 kraft planes as the base. You'll need to turn back now in your instructions to layouts 3 and 4 and empty the pocket. I have a lot of stuff, so we'll just work through it together. You won't find your pieces in the same order I do. That's okay. We'll just work through this. This is right on top, so I'm going to add this green map on the bottom of this left page. And then I believe it's going to get a brown, no, first it gets a brick strip, which you can then nest with brown, which you can then nest with the quote that says, "Sometimes nature is all you need," and ain't that the truth. Okay, then on the upper side, I have this fresh air strip with the brown, and that's going to go here near the top. And then a little bit away from it is the brick strip, and in between there, we're going to add a ribbon. Now on the right here, I'm going to place this larger sheet of brown and find the map print that nests. So one will fit, one will be too big. So the one that fits goes on top of here. The one that's too big will go on the left and provide a nice foundation. I just like how this is creating some sections or some areas here. Okay, then I think I'm going to look for the largest burgundy mats, or brick rather. I called it brick, but I kept forgetting. And then I think that the brown mats that we have here should nest perfectly right onto the brick ones. Below that, we'll add, well, we'll find those little rectangles. They go kind of into this area here. If you scoot this up, they can be vertical. Nice. And then, let's see, over on the right, within this space, we have 2 horizontal brick. Love that. Now, we have some nesting to do. So we have the vacation next exit, for example. That should have a red companion that it will nest with in the lower right. And then you have another one. We're going to go here with You Make Me a Happy Camper. Next, you should find this rectangular brown piece, and it's the same height as the brick mat, and that will nest this beautifully. Now, don't allow these printed materials to keep you from scrapbooking your pictures. If you have a lot of pictures from an event, by all means cover the artwork with your pictures. That takes priority. But the images are here to help you finish a layout if you don't have enough pictures. Now we have one more nesting pair with this brick and the Yellowstone postcard. Love that. This you can adapt to fit the arrow with the heart. And I believe I just kept this side complete and then cut a V on the left. And then this guy is also placed up here. A couple of embellishments. Of course, I brought in another leaf, brought in another paw charm that goes right in here. I stretched some ribbon across. Let's look at the finished layouts. Here's the ribbon where I just made a loop, taped the ends to the back, and I made it so that the loop goes about 4 inches in. So it's like an 8-inch ribbon, 8 or 9-inch ribbon. Then I took another piece of ribbon, threaded it through that initial loop, pulled it tight, and then secured that to the back of the page. This is attached with our awesome bookbinding glue. Can't live without that. I love how this page turned out, just adding the V into the scrap. Now just makes it an eye-catching embellishment. Here I wrapped this with some brick jute and tucked the bottom of the leaf in there. Of course, the bookbinding glue is holding that in place. I pop dotted with our foam adhesive circles. I just made a little height here on the brick rectangles. Sometimes it's nice if you have like a lot of pictures, you can take one picture and spread it across both of these. I just use my grid ruler to determine what size the picture would be. And in this case, it would need to be 4 by 2 1/8 is what I would do to put in that spot. You can put pictures here, you can put them on top, wherever you want to do. Okay, now I'm going to do the slide and stack again. So let's slide this, stack it on there. One more slide. Here we are. Okay, and I'll empty everything from pocket 1 and 2. You know what that means. This is our last layout already. I can't believe how fast this kit comes together. It's really cool. All right, I believe the largest of the 2 map strips that you have goes on the top, and then the smaller goes on the bottom. I guess it really doesn't matter. I just like that they're not the same. And then I'm going to add some nested border strips here with these cool little dots. I like that. The brown mats should fit perfectly in the remaining opening there. And then if there's a brown mat, it's going to nest really well with this I let my mind wander element here. We'll add the right now. Another brown mat that will overlap the photo mat, so it's okay. With the word road trip, you can staple some ribbon onto that. Now on the right side, we've got 2 more matted photos, then a vertical skinny guy, which should perfectly provide a home for these 2 elements. If you'd like to round the corners on these, you can. And then this also nests and is placed there. Jacqueline designed this to hold a leaf perfectly. you can add one of the remaining, let's see, I think there's the deer charm. The deer charm is attached here with some brick jute. Some more bows made with the granulated taffeta. On the finished page here, you can see how cool that deer charm is. And if you wanted to, like when I scanned this image, the charm had like turned up or something. So if you really want to make sure it doesn't move, just give it a little tack of glue. Of course, if you wanted to, a picture could go in its place. So I didn't want to stick anything down. That's just a nice, I'm going to use those again. I hope you don't mind, but those are some cool embellishments. Okay, that's layout 2. And then layout number 1, here we go with the ribbon attached here, our little wood word, and then just a simple basic bow made of that granulated taffeta down at the bottom to carry that all through. Love how that turned out. I need to go out and have some adventures, I think. It's about time. Well, there you have it. I hope you like this remix. I think it's one of my favorite of all of the color palettes we've done for the National Parks collection. This one has been in very high demand, so if you want this collection, don't hesitate if you don't already have it. And I'm looking forward to making all kinds of other projects with this remix kit as well. So stay tuned and enjoy. We'll see you next time.